Hi, and welcome back to my channel. So fall is nearly upon us. I believe autumn actually starts next week. And I thought what a perfect time to talk about some of my favorite thrillers from the past couple years. Now, whether they were published in the last couple years or I just picked them up in the last couple years, that might vary. But I think fall is the perfect time for a thriller mystery, maybe even a little bit of a horror setting, although I read them any time of year. But I thought it was the perfect time to kind of come up with a list of some of them that have been my favorites. I'm pretty sure all of them that I'm going to talk about today, I did rate 5 stars. I could be kidding myself, but I'm almost positive. So I threw on one of my cozy sweatshirts because I'm ready for that cooler fall weather, even though it does say lake life, but it's cozy. I'm ready, and let's jump in and talk about some of these thrillers. And I use the term thriller loosely. Thriller, mystery, horror. Yeah. So the first one that I have might be a little bit controversial because I know not everybody liked that one or this one, but it is In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This one, basically it's a group of women who I think they call it a hen party, or as a lot of us in the US know as a bachelorette party, and things start happening. Talking about these, I don't want to give too much away, but this one definitely kind of kept me hooked. It was spooky, just kind of that creepy crawly feeling, and the ending, yeah, had me kind of blown away. So Ruth Ware, I do have a lot more on my shelves by her that I need to read. I've read a couple. I think this one so far is my favorite, but I do have several that I still need to get to. This author, I don't think can do much wrong, and I know that's controversial because his newer books have been, but that is Riley Sager. And this one, The Last Time I Lied, is by far my favorite one that he has written. But I was also hooked by Home Before Dark and The Locked Door and Final Girls. So, but this one is definitely my favorite. This one is set at a summer camp. But I love, love, love some of Riley Sager's thrillers, and you will always find me recommending these. These are the first books that if a friend asks for a thriller or mystery to read, I will definitely pick up a Riley Sager. All right, this next one is probably one of, if not the most graphic book I think I have ever read, which is why I haven't picked up anything by this author again yet, but there are some things over on my shelf here that I have by this one, and that is Karen Slaughter's Pretty Girls. This one, some of the scenes that were described in here were very graphic and very violent, and I read it while I was camping, which I read a lot of that, but I just remember being like, whoa, I have never read a book like this. And on the back here it says, like, a stunning family tragedy and hold your breath, pedal to the metal thriller magically blended. So it's amazing. It was so good, but trigger be warned for sure. Now this next author I have 2 favorites by, and one currently I have loaned out to a friend. I just gave it to her to read, but that is Simone St. James. This one happens to be the Sundown Motel. This one is super, super creepy, and the hotel itself basically becomes a character. A lot of haunted themes in this one. And the other one is, The Broken Girls, and that one is like past boarding school for girls type story. Both of them had me hooked, had me spooked, and I didn't enjoy as much. Her most recent one was the Book of Cold Cases. That one didn't have me as gripped as these other 2 did, but I would highly suggest picking up one of these 2. Next up is Lucy Foley's The Guest List. I really, really enjoyed this one. This one is You'd Kill to Be on It. You'd Kill to Be on the Guest List. And this basically is a wedding that takes place on an isolated island, and people start ending up dead. And you're trying to figure out who the killer is, and you know it's somebody on the island because stuff keeps happening. And this one definitely had me hooked, and I think it is the favorite out of the books that I've read by her. I have a couple other ones, but this one for sure was my favorite. This one I talked about recently, very atmospheric thriller slash mystery, No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a perfect book to read in a snowstorm, and I know my friend Nicole is gonna probably laugh at me because I was supposed to wait and read this one with her, and I just like couldn't wait, and then I picked it up and then I felt bad. So we will still do a book sometime, Nicole, I promise. But this one, girl's trying to make it home in a snowstorm, ends up getting stuck at like a rest stop, and finds a girl locked in a cage in a van, and realizes that somebody inside the rest stop probably, or not probably, is the one that's keeping this girl locked up. And it was fantastic. They actually just adapted that one into a Hulu special, or movie. Movie wasn't as great, but the book is really, really good. So I think that's all the physical copies I have. Like I said, this time of year especially, or even when a friend asks for a recommendation, my thrillers tend to be the books that I send out the most. But I do have a list, and I'll include pictures as I kind of talk about this list of other ones that are some of the top recommendations that I have in the thriller, mystery, horror genre. First up is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Now, when I had first started reading Colleen Hoover, it was more like on her romance side of things, and contemporary, and then you pick up Verity and you're like, this is not her normal realm. And it was fantastic. I believe that one is a woman who is basically going to be a ghostwriter for someone that is not able to finish her contract writing books, but they still need to finish out this contract. So she goes to be this woman's ghostwriter basically, and she starts reading what she believes to be her journal, and it is crazy. So, excellent read. Probably one of my favorites of Colleen Hoover, even though it is so different. The next one up, I haven't talked much about because it is part of the books that I've already read in September, but it had me hooked, and I wish I wasn't having to work so that I could have just finished it faster, and that was 13 by Steve Cavanaugh. This one is more of like crime, court, mixed with serial killer type of mystery, and basically the tagline that doesn't spoil anything because it's right on the front cover of the book is, the serial killer isn't on trial, he's on the jury. And that's all I want to say, but it had me gripped. It was so good. Another one that I read most recently, and I haven't talked too much about, but I will talk about in my month wrap up, was The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. I am still speechless about this book. It is based around a cult, and the trigger warnings that she includes at the beginning of the book are extremely accurate, and yeah, it's basically just left me speechless. It was so good. I've enjoyed other things that Ashley Winstead has written, but this one will probably top my books for the year. Other ones that I have read this year, one was Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. That was the very first book I ever picked up by her. Basically, premise was a girl is just coming out of prison for being involved in the murder of her best friend, and I believe the serial killer, or the person that killed her best friend, was also in prison, but murders start happening in the same style again, and as many books in that same sort of trope do, they're trying to figure out who's doing it. So that one was excellent. If you'd want to get into Jennifer Hillier, I definitely recommend starting there. I've read one other by her, but I'm hoping to pick up Creep and Freak soon. So another wonderful one, and this is one I actually found because of Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library, and is also available on Kindle Unlimited, was Unmissing by Minka Kent. Basically, a girl gets abducted in the woods while hiking. Years go by, her husband moves on. She escapes from her captor and comes back looking to like reclaim her life, and her husband has already moved on. And you kind of go from there, and what's happening, what is this woman going to decide to do, etc. Really great. Several twists that I did not see coming, and that's my favorite. If I can't predict a thriller, because clearly I read a lot of thrillers and I have a ton that I've picked up, like if I can't see something coming, that's my favorite. Another one that was definitely in the more violent category of what I've read previously, and that was Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Basically, two dads come together to avenge the deaths of their sons who were married, and the things that they have to go through and fight against to avenge those deaths. And they are two unlikely characters that you wouldn't picture together, and there are a lot of violent things that happen, but it had me hooked and on the edge of my seat basically the whole time. You just have to be prepared for the violence. I think I have that one loaned out to my mom right now. Enjoy that one, Mom. Another one that I can't even remember where I heard about reading it. And I think it's a Kindle Unlimited book. If not, I borrowed it from the library, but I'm almost positive it's Kindle Unlimited. And that was Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Caine. And I believe I read the first 3 in this series. There might be 5 or 6. I felt like after I read the first 3, I was good. But I'm going to pull up the premise here because I can't remember exactly. Oh yeah, so a woman finds out that her husband is actually a serial killer. He goes to prison, and she feels like she needs to get away with her 2 kids and kind of live, not necessarily off the grid, but just out of the spotlight, witness protection, change names, the whole 9 yards. And eventually, and she's got to get out of the press because they're like, how did you not know your husband was a serial killer? And now, just when she's starting to feel like normal, a body turns up in the lake of the place that they're living, and yeah, it keeps going, and they think it's connected to her husband, and it was a fantastic story. And clearly, if I picked up books 2 and 3 in a relatively short amount of time after reading the first one, I was definitely hooked by that one. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'll ever pick up books 4 and 5 and 6 if there is 6, but I really liked the first 3. One that I recommend to probably everyone, enough so that I had 2 copies of it because I never even got it back from the first person I loaned it to, and I knew I just needed to have a copy in my library, and now I currently have it loaned out to another coworker because I said everybody needs to read this book because it's so insane, is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, which I do believe they also just, not just, but it is now a Netflix series. I haven't watched that series. I struggle with, am I reading or watching TV? And then I never finished it. Yeah, anyway. So this one was blow my mind to the last page crazy. I believe it starts with a woman who meets a guy at a bar. Turns out that guy is her boss. She ends up meeting the boss's wife, and they become friends, but she can't figure out why their marriage is so toxic. And I don't want to give too much away after that, but it, like, literally to the last page, I was like, oh, wow. So I hand that one off to anybody that I can get their hands on it. And so far, all of the people that I've given it to were like, so, no words. Insane. And I believe, because I already talked about the last one on my list here, those are all of the thrillers that I have picked up in the last couple years that I think would be perfect fall reads. Are those all of the thrillers that I've read or mysteries that I've read? No, but those are definitely the ones that stand out in my mind the most as I was scanning my shelves and scanning my list of what I really thought were just over the top phenomenal. Do you have any recommendations for me? I have so many that I know I want to pick up, but I am willing to add to my list of thrillers anytime, because not only do I think they're perfect for fall, but I will read a thriller anytime. So if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. As always, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.